So it's been nearly a month since the release of this major update, and there's been a surprising lack of conversation for when it comes to the newly introduced enhanced module system. And just a month before that, it was one of the few major talking points which did turn a few heads. And from what I was able to tell, many were for said new enhanced modules, while some saw it as the death of specific vehicles, most notably the Russian 2S38, the T90M, and even said the same for some of the T72s and the T80s. But now that it's been nearly a month since the public release of these new modules, I believe it's time to find out whether or not it's made a significant difference in the high tier environment. But welcome back yet again to the channel. If you happen to enjoy these types of talking heads or the work that I put out for this channel, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to hit that big 100K before the year is out because I am greatly looking forward to mounting that plaque on the wall behind me for the whole world to see in the streams and of course here on YouTube. But let's dive into the details. Now, if you're someone who plays in the lower tiers and aren't familiar with the new enhanced modules, they're essentially extra modules in the vehicle that can be destroyed, such as the fire control system, FCS for short, the laser warning system, LWS, again for short, gun stabilizer, thermals, NVD, autoloader, etc. Each of these modules controls an essential part of your vehicle like any other module. So if these happen to get destroyed, you would have to fall back and repair them. And yeah, it does add a little bit of extra repair time. It's one of the few downsides of this new system. Now, these enhanced modules, they only exist within certain vehicles in the upper battle ratings, but I would well imagine that at some point, we might see some of these new enhanced modules in the earlier battle ratings, and I'm sorry to say, this is going to affect my Tiger and Panther players very greatly. Assuming Gaijin sticks to historical boundaries, that is. Yeah, we'll not get into that. But there's your crash course on what these modules are. Now, the big question, have I noticed them in game? Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think the biggest loser with these new modules is the Israeli Namer. Yeah, I know, I have no idea why, but I swear every time I get shot in it, the battery system fails, leaving me entirely defenseless. He's gonna hit me in the rear, he's gonna break my electrical system right now. Told you. That's the one thing I hate about this vehicle is the electrical system is so easy to knock out. But I know you're thinking about the T90 and the 2S38. In truth, I have yet to really notice much for the T90 because generally, whenever I engage said T90, maybe a T80 or T72 type of vehicle, whenever the dart goes through that lower front plate or anywhere else for that matter, either the vehicle will break entirely or just flat out be destroyed. Meaning the breech, the turret ring, the barrel, they all act the same. As for the autoloader, that's where things get interesting. It's not something that I actively pay attention to unless I know for a fact that the breech is empty. Because if it isn't, that player could still get a shot off that could potentially disable or destroy you. And let's be real here, you know, the fun Russian bias stuff, this kind of makes it sound like it exists just a little bit, but jokes aside, assuming that doesn't happen, the follow-up shot usually finishes off whatever I'm shooting at, unless I'm unlucky, which you'd be surprised how often it does happen. You know, it's weird because I was streaming today, right? Which is where you get some of this footage. And I really paid attention to the autoloader stuff, and it did come into play, but it still wasn't as big of an issue as many would have otherwise put it, as shown in some of these clips. But when it comes to the 2S38, and assuming you have yet to see my video on said vehicle, I have noticed a bit of a difference with the enhanced modules. Though if you are being shot at, it's usually not a very forgiving vehicle that survives the first hit and you just blow up. Though the new design of the autoloader has made it very simple to otherwise destroy or even disable the vehicle if you're otherwise unlucky. And now for the NATO vehicles. Oh yeah, well, at least NATO allied ones. Anyways, the Type 10s, Type 90s, Leclercs, and other various NATO vehicles that feature autoloaders, which aren't too many, thankfully. I have noticed a significant change to their overall performance. Now, before the update, the turret also had a large amount of dead space. I mean, I'm sure you can tell me right now in the comments how you would shoot the back of it and nothing would happen, no spalling, etc., which was outright annoying, which meant that specific shots to the bustles would usually result in the shell just, again, outright missing the ammunition, leading to a wasted opportunity to destroy the vehicle. That's no longer the case. The loading mechanism now encases the entirety of the ammunition, which adds a whole new method of outright disabling said vehicles, and I've abused that to really good effect. I'm sorry, my French and Japanese mains, it had to happen eventually. But do keep in mind, if you do have a round inside of the breach that's not disabled, you can still fight back. As for the Leopards and the Abrams, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference. Aiming for the new power pack or other critical modules, at least the new ones anyways, has been mostly useless for me to focus on. And seeing that these new modules are in the crew compartment, whenever a Sabo enters the area, the crew usually evaporates anyways, courtesy of Svinet and DM53. But in reality, the modules are too insignificant to properly focus on, seeing that the true parts everyone should focus on is, of course, the crew and the breach and barrel modules, along with the modules that control mobility, such as engine, transmission, etc. But that's a very unique type of situation. Though they may be convenient, it's not worth your effort to focus on while in the heat of battle, unlike IFVs. But speaking of which, the Puma, 2S38, Namer, CV90s, they all got a pretty big hit in this major update with the new enhanced modules. Some of these vehicles, you can outright disable them with machine gun fire. And you'd be surprised at how critical it can be just to focus on some of those modules. But I can say for certain, it's caused me to lose a ton of fights while trying to either side scrape or show my rear end to bait shots. And the same can be said for the German Puma, but I believe it's a far better vehicle overall when it comes to survivability when comparing it to vehicles such as the Namer. I don't know, I just have a vendetta against it right now. It's such a fun vehicle and I love it, but dude, it's been so frustrating to play that damn thing as of late. So case in point, are the new enhanced modules a game changer? The new boogeyman you may have to fear while in high tier battles? Not really. Unless you're in some sort of infantry fighting vehicle, then maybe, but the everyday T90, Leclerc T80, not so much. And yeah, it can be very annoying to deal with, but at that point, you'd likely notice your breach or barrel more so than the actual new modules themselves, and all it does for me is adds a few extra seconds of repair time, which means you should focus on upping your crew experience and buff that repair skill. I believe it's more important than ever in this major update and, of course, moving forward. But it's really nice to know that the pace of the game in the upper BRs hasn't really changed because of these new modules. Yes, it adds a bit of inconvenience, and it does make the games a little bit more tricky, but really it doesn't do too much for me. But I am curious to know what you think about these new changes. Have they affected your gameplay? Is it substantial? Is it a minor nuisance? Do you outright hate this new system? Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And as usual, while you're swinging on down there, don't forget, as always, I do have my 3% discount link. I gotta show that, of course. And if you want to see all of this gameplay shown in a more live format, you are welcome to hop on over to my live streams over on Twitch. But really, that's all I got for you today. And thank you for taking the time to watch this talking head. I know how slow these can really be for you, but just know that I greatly appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this. So, with all that being said, thank you again, and as always, happy grinding.